In this lecture, let us discuss the non-uniform quantization via the process called compounding. Okay, so let me tell you what we mean by compounding. So compounding is a two-step process. In the first step, which is done at the transmitter, okay, so you carry out what is called a simple sample compression. Okay, it is a two-step process. So in the first step, you do at the transmitter, and the second step is done at the receiver. Okay, in the transmitter you compress the signal. Here decompress the signal at the receiver. Inverse operation of your compression. Okay, so you take the first four letters COMP. Okay, and this four letter you got here compounding, and the COMP is coming from this word compress. COMP, compress. Okay, so the first four letters of this compounding word actually come from the first four letters of the word compression. Okay, so compression is done at the transmitter, then followed by uniform quantization. So you do the compression before giving to the quantizer, then you give it to uniform quantizer. Because uniform quantizer is, it's very easy to implement, right? It's very easy to realize. So that is why what we do is, instead of using non-uniform quantizer, we compress the signal and then give it to uniform quantizer. So the combination of these two is equivalent to a non-uniform quantizer that we will discuss in detail now. Okay, so what we are saying that instead of doing a non-uniform quantization directly, okay, so instead of giving to non-uniform quantization, you give it to compressor, you do it compression and then give it to uniform quantizer. Okay, so in non-uniform quantization we have variable steps from each other. Okay, you do somewhat an equivalent thing by compressing the range of the amplitude of the input signal. You compress the larger amplitudes because we have problem with the larger amplitudes, right? So what you do is you compress the larger amplitude and don't disturb the lower amplitude, and then follow it up by a uniform quantization. So this is a two-step process. At the transmitter, you first compress the sample. Okay, after this sampling, you compress it. So that is why I called it is sample compression, and then do it uniform quantizer, because uniform quantizer is much more easier to implement. So once you do the compression, then the larger amplitude signals are compressed to within the range of lower amplitude signals, and do not disturb the lower amplitude signal values. Now this compression, I will just illustrate this idea by a diagram. Before that, this compression is usually achieved by transformation. Okay, so y is equal to some function on the input sampled value x. X is a random variable, so some transformation function. Okay, you do some function on x such that the larger amplitudes are reduced to within the range of smaller amplitudes, and this operation y is equal to some function of x is a memoryless operation. Okay. Straight away we can implement this. Okay, so this is a memoryless transformation of a kind which compress the amplitude range of the signal into a finite region. In case this is my speech signal. If the amplitude goes like this, then my larger amplitude portion is this one. So this portion you bring down to the lower amplitudes. That's what we are going to do it by this transformation. Okay, the higher amplitudes are compressed to lie within the fixed dynamic range. So this is my dynamic range. Dynamic range. So bring this large amplitude to this dynamic range. Higher amplitudes are compressed to lie within a fixed dynamic range. So this is a typical, non-linear function, right? This function is a typical non-linear function. Okay, you are not compressing all the amplitudes linearly. Only some portions you are compressing, and the remaining portions you are not disturbing. Okay, and this function should be chosen in such a way that what kind of random variable should y be. Okay, so this after compression, this y is approximately a uniform random variable. Okay, that means x must be uniformly distributed. So that is the whole idea of this type of transformation at the receiver. So the purpose of your compression operation is to convert a non-uniform random variable into a uniformly distributed random variable. Because if you are going to follow it up by a uniform distribution after this sample compression. Therefore, the motivation is that we expect this function y is equal to g of x to be very close to uniform distribution. Okay, therefore y is equal to g of x, and this function g is chosen so as to make y nearly uniformly distributed, if not exactly. Okay, at least you make it uniformly distributed. In fact, I'm sure we have discussed one of the transformations which will render a given random variable x into another random variable y, which will be uniformly distributed. Okay, so I think we have done that in our probability theory course. Okay, so you can go through that. So there are transformations. If you know what kind of distribution x has, from that knowledge we can obtain a transformation, the function g, okay, such that y is uniformly distributed. So y has uniform distribution. You can now use uniform quantizer, right? As long as your signal is uniformly distributed, then no problem. Okay, you can straight away use uniform quantizer. So it makes sense to use a uniform quantizer once you do the compression operation. Okay, so as far as the random variable capital X is concerned, effectively you are carrying out a non-uniform quantization, right? So as far as X is concerned, you are carrying out non-uniform quantization. And as far as Y is concerned, after compression, you are doing uniform quantization. Therefore, the combination of your compression and uniform quantization, these two together is called non-uniform, is equivalent to non-uniform quantization. Okay, so this is best illustrated by means of a picture. So let me draw the picture here. Okay, so the input is varying like this, varying like that. Input, this is output. Let me denote the output by y and the input by x. So this is the minimum value I can get at the output, and this is the maximum value I can get at the output, and therefore this point corresponds to g of x. Okay, and this curve is g of x. As you can see, a large dynamic range. See, in the x-axis it keep on goes, right? A large dynamic range of x is being compressed into a finite dynamic range of y. Here x is no large dynamic range, it keep on goes. Okay, this large dynamic range is compressed into a finite dynamic range. Finite dynamic range. So this is what it is happening. Okay, so therefore x is being compressed, this x is being compressed into a finite dynamic range y. Okay, because the y is going from y min to y max, but on the x-axis there is no limit. Okay, so y min is one boundary and y max is another boundary. So these two are the ends of the boundary. So this is the lower end and this one is upper end. And if g is appropriately selected, you can expect this y to be a uniformly distributed random variable. Okay, choose g such that this dynamic range is this dynamic range from this point. This dynamic range is uniformly distributed, but on the x-axis it is not uniformly distributed. Okay, but if you look at the x-axis, this is my dynamic range, very large dynamic range, very large dynamic range. This is a very crude picture. Okay, I did not draw properly. I did not draw properly. So, but anyway, so in the x-axis you have very large dynamic range, but in the y-axis you have finite dynamic range. And now you can ask me what kind of function will give rise this type of curve. Generally the log function. Okay, therefore it actually depends on the distribution function of x. The most general form of g is if x has a cumulative function. If x has a cumulative function capital Fx of x, then you can use this cumulative function Fx of x as a memoryless transformation. Okay, where capital Fx of x is a cumulative distribution function CDF of the random variable x. Okay, just to find the CDF of the random variable. Okay, so that you will get a uniform random variable. So when see here x is a non-uniform random variable, right? Once you find the CDF of x, then this gives rise to uniform random variable x. Let me call y is the CDF of capital X, and this is non-uniform and this is uniform. So generally the CDF operation will give you the uniform random variable. So that's one method of converting your non-uniform random variable into a uniform random variable. So this is just to recapitulate for you what you might have done in probability theory and random process course. Okay, please recall that. Now how can we realize this capital Fx of x, this CDF of function? Well, there are many ways of realizing this in practice, okay, these days. So whenever you want to get a curve like this and curve like that, then there are many ways. And it is a memoryless transformation, right? And moreover, this is non-linear transformation. So this is memoryless and non-linear operation. So this is a place where one can employ non-linear type of operations in communication engineering. Majority of the times we will be interested in linear operation, but here some places where we will be interested in non-linear operation. And this memoryless and non-linear operation can be programmed into a ROM, and depending on the value of x, which can serve as the address of the ROM, you can obtain the value of y. It is a very easy thing to do in these days, at least. So one do not have to worry about its analog implementation. Even that is also feasible, but the digital implementation is extremely simple and convenient to work with. Okay, for example, in analog implementation, one can use a logarithmic amplifier. Okay, in analog implementation, if you want to do this, then you can use log amplifier. Logarithmic amplifier will do this type of compression, and many of these amplifiers would be very close to this type of characteristics. In general, that is, this analog implementation is of academic interest, because we will very rarely use such a precise distribution. The reasons which I have already mentioned to you, okay, because we don't want to optimize the quantizer for a specific distribution. We would rather have a non-linearity function g, which is more robust, okay, and can work across a larger class of distribution. So that's a really interesting thing to work on it. Now the next question is, how do you choose g, the small function? How will you choose g? Because generally this g is your cumulative function fx of x, because that's very easy to show that if y is equal to fx of x like that, then this y would always be independent of what fx of x. So y would always be uniformly distributed. So this is a very standard result in probability theory. Now after having obtained y in this manner, you can do your uniform quantization over the random variable capital Y. So have uniform steps across Y, and effectively, as far as capital X is concerned, you are obtaining non-uniform quantization. As you can see, these are the steps corresponding for the Y. If you do uniform quantization across Y, random capital Y, you are effectively obtaining non-uniform quantization across X. Of course, this process will introduce a distortion for the signal, because you are taking the non-linear function y is equal to g of x. It is a non-linear operation, right? So this will, whenever you have some non-linearity, then it will introduce a non-linear distortion. So you are distorting the signal deliberately. So there is a non-linearity which is being introduced in the signal at the transmitter. In fact, the process of non-uniform quantization itself is equivalent to introducing some kind of distortion. Okay, I mean, this non-uniform quantization itself introduces some kind of distribution. But this is very specifically obvious from this figure. From this figure, that if you do the non-uniform quantization, in this particular manner. Let me draw the figure one more time so that you can understand a little bit clearly. Like this, you do the non-uniform quantization, maybe like this, then you increase the step size like that. Now look at the Y range. This is almost see here, this is almost uniformly distributed in the Y, and here non-uniform, because the quantization width is not the same, right? Here this is one level and this is some other level, this is smaller and this is still smaller, this is still smaller. So in the x-axis I have non-uniform quantization, but in the y-axis I have uniform quantization. So what you have to do therefore is make sure that this effect is compensated at the receiver. Okay, at the transmitter you are doing this kind of compression, okay, g of x type of operations. So you have to do this inverse operation to remove this distortion, and therefore at the receiver you have to carry out an inverse transformation, right? So at the receiver you have to employ the inverse operation, which is x is equal to g inverse of capital Y. So this inverse function would obviously be expand the dynamic range. At the transmitter we compressed, and here we are going to expand. Okay, so you take this last A and D and add with the COMP, expanding and comp here. Okay, take this A and D and anding, so you will get a compounding. So first 4 letters are coming from this word compression, and the rest of the letters are coming from the word expanding. So at the transmitter you are doing the compression operation, and at the receiver you are employing expanding operation. So this together is called compounding. Okay, therefore at the receiver you expand the range of the signal which you compressed at the transmitter. Therefore what you have to have at the receiver is the opposite of this compressor, and obviously we call it an expander, and it is from the combination of compression and expansion. The name compounding is derived. Okay, so the expander is the inverse function which you must have or which you must implement at the receiver. Okay, you must have at the receiver and you must have to implement at the receiver, so as to undo the non-linear operation that you did at the transmitter. Because at the transmitter we did y is equal to g of x, and this g of x is a non-linear operation. So whenever you have non-linearity, then it will distort your signal, right? Therefore this operation must be removed at the receiver. Okay, so any kind of non-linearity will distort your signal. For example, what are the kind of things that you are familiar with non-linear operations may do to the signal? It will introduce intermodulation terms. For example, you have a terms like this: a cos omega 1t plus b cos omega 2t. Then if you have non-linear operation, let's say like this square operation, then what is going to happen? You will get cos omega 1t plus, let me take only one component, so in order to simplify the process, then you will get cos omega 1t plus cos of 2 omega 1t. Originally your signal contains only omega 1, now it contains 2 omega 1. So double of this fundamental frequency will also exist because of the non-linearity. So this is called harmonic modulation. Okay, so it will introduce an extra frequency terms in the signal. Okay, so if you have if your signal has only a single frequency component, it will introduce multiple frequency components. If it is a cos omega 1t whole cube, then you will have another one more frequency component, right? and it will generate additional frequency component. This is my additional frequency component. Okay, if you have more than one frequency components, then you'll get all kinds of sum and difference terms of those frequency components, like a cos omega 1t plus b cos omega 2t, like this. Then if you square this, then you'll get not only a cos omega 1t plus b cos omega 2t, some constant, I don't know, let me call a dash and b dash, plus you will have the components. Let me write down the frequency component. Okay, you will be having omega 1, omega 2, then omega 1 plus omega 2, then omega 1 minus omega 2. These are the components will exist. And also you have 2 omega 1 and 2 omega 2. Originally your signal had only two components, omega 1 and omega 2. Now you have these components. Okay, so all kinds of sum, difference and integer multiple. These are the components which are introduced after the non-linearity, which you don't want. Therefore, this non-linear operation, whenever you encounter that, you must be very careful and undo this effect of these distortions that you are deliberately carrying out from the point of view of a good quantization of the receiver. Okay, by introducing an inverse function, which obviously would be some kind of expander. Therefore, it will be inverse of this function. So mathematically, inverse of this function, which would be an expander. Therefore, y is equal to g of x is the operation done by the compressor, and x is equal to g inverse of x done by the expander, and this is done at the transmitter and it is done at the receiver. So using these words COMP and ANDING, compounding, I am getting the word compounding. So non-uniform quantization in general is done through the process of compression at the transmitter followed by uniform quantization. You look at this figure. In the x-axis you have a non-uniform quantization. The moment you compress, you will get a curve like this, and this curve, if you look at in the y-axis, it becomes uniform quantization. Therefore, this non-uniform quantization will be equal to a compressor followed by uniform quantization. Okay, so non-uniform quantization in general is done through the process of compression g of x at the transmitter followed by uniform quantizer. Compressor characteristic is compensated by having an appropriate expander at the receiver. Okay, so one can do a dynamic compression also, but it is usually more convenient to have a robust quantizer than optimum dynamic quantizer. Okay, for one thing it is simpler to implement. This robust quantizer is simple to implement using standard procedure. Using your there are ICs are available, you can program it and you can use it. Okay, so here what we mean by robust is that this is independent of the distribution. Okay, basically by robust quantizer I only mean the fact that it should be distribution free. Okay, it doesn't matter what distribution you have. Okay, because as I said, the distribution changes from time to time and the distribution changes from signal to signal, right? So it should not depend that much characteristics. Okay, its performance should not depend that much on the specific distribution with which it is phased in practice. Okay. Now typically this compression characteristics and expansion characteristics have been the subject wide study in the PCM literature during the earlier stage of development of PCM. Many researchers have invested their time and they have done a lot of research on this, and now finally they came up with a certain technique in order to do this type of operation. Okay, people tried to look at various kinds of compression and expansion characteristics, and out of a lot of research, a lot of it was theoretical in fact, and out of a lot of research they came up with a result, and those results are called in the name of A law and mu law. Okay, A law compression and mu law compression. And okay, a set of laws, okay, these two laws have been given, which have more or less been adopted as standard and used in PCM systems. These two are standards which are used in systems, and of this is called a A law compounder and a mu law compounder. Okay, mostly these two laws use a logarithmic function, okay, which makes sense, okay, which makes a lot of sense here, and they are okay, this both the laws use logarithmic function. These specific laws are the culmination of a lot of studies in this area about the theoretical as well as experimental and empirical. Experimental and empirical. Okay, so A law compression and mu law compression. Okay, so this mu law compression is normally used in the United States of America, Japan and Canada, right? So most of the American PCM standards have the mu law compression. Okay, mu law is in America, and this A law is in Europe. So they are both logarithmic functions, log functions. So let me given by this. Okay, first mu law is given by mod of y is equal to ln of 1 plus mu of mod of x divided by x suffix x maximum value, and divided by ln of 1 plus mu. This is called mu law, and here the range is 0 less than or equal to mod of x divided by x maximum, and then less than or equal to 1, where y is equal to c times mod of x divided by x maximum. And this A law is slightly more complicated. It looks not as here. It looks a little big expression. So y is equal to I have two conditions. One is A times mod of x divided by x max divided by 1 plus ln of a, where the range is 0 less than or equal to mod of x divided by x max less than or is equal to 1 over a, or if the range lies between between 1 over a and 1, then this is a times mod of x divided by x max divided by 1 plus ln of a if the range is 1 over a less than or equal to mod of x divided by x max 1. So it is basically some complicated looking mathematical expression. Okay, so as I said, we have come out of a lot of study, both empirically as well as theoretical. Okay, and because of that we got these two expressions. So this is A law and this one is mu law. And the main reason why have been adopted as standard is that both these laws yield an average quantization noise which is more or less independent of what kind of signal you are feeding in it. Okay, so it doesn't matter what type of signal we are going to feed into this compressor. So that's what I mean by robust. It is independent of the signal. So the quantization noise that we introduced on, to some extent it depends on the signal that is being quantized, okay, but the variation is very, very small, and therefore in that sense they are robust. So it is better to use such laws or such non-linearities than specifically designed optimum non-linearities. Instead of using specifically designed optimum non-linearities, you can use this type of non-linearities. Okay, and in fact these standards are now absolutely taken for granted. Many of the codecs and coders or decoders are using this standard. Okay, and this will do the PCM transformation of a voice signal, and these are commercially available. Okay, so these are implemented and commercially available. Off the shelf the ICs are available. Okay, so with these options, either you can use mu law compounding or A law compounding. Okay, they are available in the IC form. You can get the IC and you can do it. Okay, so that's all about the non-uniform quantization, and we discussed the need for non-uniform quantization, and moreover this non-uniform quantization is not that much easy to implement it, and so that's why we would like to somehow implement this non-uniform quantization via uniform quantization. That is why we invoked this compounding technique. You compress the guys who has no larger dynamic range into a smaller dynamic range, so that everybody falls under the smaller amplitude range, and then you can employ the uniform quantization. As I said, the uniform quantization is very, very easy to implement than the non-uniform quantization. So that's why we are doing this kind of non-linear function. So this compression is not a linear function, it is a non-linear function g of x. So once you have this non-linear function, then obviously you have to remove that non-linearity at the receiver. Otherwise this non-linearity will introduce some kind of distortions. As I said, it introduces extra frequency components, and that is we don't want. Therefore, to counter this non-linearity, we introduce the inverse operation of compression, something called expanding. Okay, so that's all about this non-uniform quantization. So till now we discussed quantization noise or quantization error, bandwidth. First we discussed bandwidth requirement, and then quantization noise, and then two types of quantization: uniform quantization and non-uniform quantization. And we also discussed the basic operation of your pulse code modulation. Okay, so let me stop at this point. In the next lecture I would like to discuss the system aspects of pulse code modulation. Okay, how a typical PCM communication system would look like, that we will see in the next class. Okay, let me stop at this point. Thank you very much.